goes back to the east, gets Coolidge, Florence. We bypass AJ and Gold Canyon. We get some of Santan Valley, all the way up to Superior, Globe, and Gila County, back down to all the mining towns, Kearney,
Dudleyville, and all that.
Dudleyville,
yeah. Copper Corridor,
Mammoth, Oracle, and then back to Casa Grande. It is just absolutely a huge chunk of land.
Where are most of the votes in this district?
You're going to the votes are going to be Casa Grande, Coolidge, Florence, Santan Valley, and Globe.
Okay,
that is where you have to.
It's the bulk of people.
Yes, that's where you really have to hit it hard.
I see. And you're running for the Senate seat.
Yes.
And in Arizona, we have 2 House members who are presently seated in LD8.
Right. Frank Pratt and T.J. Shope are currently seated. We have a 7-point deficit in registration with Democrats in this district, but we outperform them at the polls because the independents, which are the second largest group of registered voters, if they vote, they break for Republicans about 5-3.
5-3.
Yeah, for 5 for Republicans for every 3 to vote for the Democrats.
No, I'm surprised with that. I thought the independent vote was a higher conservative leaning, but I was wrong then. I thought it was more like 4-1. I guess
you're getting 5 out of 8.
Yeah, so. But I guess I always thought it was higher. And Frank Pratt was going to run for corporate commission, and he's decided to stay in the House.
Right. He made an announcement in the Casa Grande paper in the last 5-6 days that he would be seeking re-election to his House seat.
Okay.
So, and there's also another candidate that has filed under clean elections. A young man named Trey Terry has filed for the House side. So those are the 3 that.
So there will be a 3-way, and it's the 2 highest vote getters that get the seat.
Yes.
And in your election, have you got anybody who's declared who will be a primary opponent?
So far, no. But, of course, it is very, very early.
Okay.
And I have been told there will be somebody facing you, Harold. So, but we'll just take that, as it comes along.
Okay. In the person who said that, I think you self-identify as more of a Tea Party more than the traditional Republican, Main Street Republican. Would you say that's accurate?
Well, I would say that every Republican believes everything that the Tea Party believes. If you're a platform Republican, you are pro-life, you are pro-gun, you are pro-business, you name the pro that's on our side of the fence, and all Republicans believe that.
Well, now, I've always got the impression that the Tea Party was not as oriented towards the social issues, gay marriage, pro-life, that sort of thing. They were more economic and, more on the money side, worrying about constitutionality of spending and that sort of thing. Do I have a misimpression?
I don't think so, but then I would once again say, that those things are also a vital concern to the mainstream Republican life.
Well, I guess the pro-choice people would disagree with you on that one, but that's okay.
Well, I tell everybody that now it makes them mad when I say it, but I tell people, I say, look, I'm pro-choice. It's just I choose life.
I got you.
Okay.
Yes, a clever way of putting it. But anyway, we try to be a big tent, and that's one thing that does come up with the economic libertarian types is
right.
That we don't want to waste any energy on that because we have so many problems over here on the debt side and the spending side that
right.
Let's just focus on getting the ship from sinking any further. But anyway, okay, so we got the district boundaries. Let's talk about you a little bit. You're still working, or you're retired? Or
my wife and I are very much retired.
Okay, fantastic.
Yes. In fact, my wife and I are both seminary students in our dotage. We were looking for something to do to keep the mind going. I started first, and my wife's going to finish first. She will graduate next May with her second master's. This one will be in educational leadership, which if you're a church-oriented person, that's the old religious ed degree. I'm working on a master's in theology. I'm a little over halfway done, and I will probably, at the rate I'm going to be, another couple of years.
Now, as the different master's programs, particularly in theology, have different philosophies, or the way they view the Bible.
Right.
So not to get too far into the weeds here, but are you of the Lutheran persuasion or where?
Southern Baptists.
Now the Southern Baptists, are they premillennialists or postmillennialists?
Yes.
They're both?
People have different opinions about that, but it's
What do they? What's their theology teach?
I would say probably Southern Baptists come down as premillennials.
Okay. And evangelical in the sense that are Pentecostal at all? Do they believe in the talking in tongues or anything of that sort?
Yes, but we define it much differently, and we don't. We would have a difference of opinion on exactly what that stuff is. It's interesting to note that the main difference between most Christian organizations is in the administration of the church. It's not so much in doctrine or what's the nature of God or the nature of man or the nature of sin or whatever. It's in how do you run the church, and that's really the big difference.
Really, as far as having a Presbyterian model versus
right. See, all Southern Baptist churches, for instance, are independent organizations. We call our own pastors. We fire our own pastors.
But there are accepted schools that you draw from for your clergy.
Oh, absolutely. We have 5 seminaries across the country. One in Fort Worth, one Mill Valley, California, has Golden Gate, and they have a campus in Scottsdale. That's the one that I attend.
Oh, so now when you become an ordained minister, which I assume you will.
I will. I'm already.
Oh, you're okay. Well, you're just adding on to your ordainments.
Yes, right.
I don't know if that's the right word, but I'll use it.
It's good enough. It works.
But you don't have a church at this point.
Oh no, I have surrendered to what they call a transitional pastorate role, and if a church does not have a pastor, I'm the guy that goes in, puts the wheels back on the bus, help them do the search to get the pastor, and then I exit stage left.
Okay, so you're a fill-in hitter, as
yes,
it were.
Right.
You come up, you're a designated hitter when they're bereft.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so how far has that role taken you in your pastoral life?
Well,
You've been to New York and Florida.
No, here all in Arizona, and I've done 2 since I entered that program. I did 13 months in Camp Verde and about 4 months in Kearney.
So now, how long ago were you first ordained?
I was ordained in 2006.
Not that long ago.
Not that long ago.
Okay. Well, that must have been pretty fun. I mean, just to go into a situation where all you could go was up, I guess, in a way. Something happened with the pastor before, and they discontinued the services.
And the good thing about that role is nobody can intimidate you. If they want to hire you on Sunday and fire you on Monday, that's okay with me. I'll go back home. I don't miss anything.
Sure. They do pay for this.
Yes. Oh yeah. If it's free, you know how it is. If it's free,
right.
It's not valued. So.
Yeah, we'll get around to Medicaid soon.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. So okay, that's very interesting because I grew up 2 Lutheran ministers in my family, very close relatives, and one was a fill-in. When there was a shortage or their vacations, actually. I think he mostly did the vacations when the pastor was taking a couple of weeks off, and so he would go around to different churches. So he had the same gig going that he could sing anything on Sunday, and Monday it didn't matter,
Right. I entered seminary when I was 63, and so my son laughed and said, "Dad, you'll be the only guy paying your tuition out of your Social Security." And I get to seminary now, at least in our family of faith, and about half of the people that are in seminary are retired people.
Really?
And they're going there just, they want to keep the mind active. They want to learn a little bit more about...
And to serve.
Yeah. Be a better Sunday school teacher, better deacon, better whatever.
Gotcha. Well, that's fascinating. Well, and I know we're really getting a little off track, but is the Southern Baptist... what's the Southern Baptist? There's a word that comes after that.
Convention.
The convention. Is that considered the church on earth?
No. The convention for us is a free will association of all churches.
All churches?
All churches.
All Southern Baptist churches?
All Southern Baptist churches.
Oh, I see.
And we look to the Southern Baptist Convention. For instance, our church sends about 10% of our receipts to them, and they're the organization that sends all of our missionaries out all over the world.
Ah, okay.
Right now, we Southern Baptists have the second largest group of missionaries out in the world of any denomination.
Is that right?
Yeah, we have almost 9,000 around the world, and most churches that have
a few
missionaries, there'll be a church that sponsors one.
Yeah.
Well, our missionaries don't have to worry about raising money. They can go to the field and they can do the work, and they don't have to worry.
So you're number 2 behind the LDS Church.
Yes, I think, in the Catholic Church.
I didn't know the Catholic Church had a... Well, they do have a big missionary outreach, I guess.
Absolutely.
But I thought the LD churches were the biggest, but maybe I'm wrong. Because you always see them on the bicycles riding around town. And so they're more visible, let's put it that way. Right. Although the Jehovah's Witnesses are out on Saturdays.
They're there.
Yeah. Everybody, well, the Great Commission in the Bible was go out and,
every place.
Yeah, so that was the thing.
No place eliminated.
Yeah. Well, fascinating. Okay, so background. So you're retired now, doing a part-time, working on your master's degree in theology.
Right.
And what did you do to prepare you for running for this august office?
Well, I tell you, I have been an elected official before. We came to Casa Grande in 2001, and prior to that, we had spent 23 years in Sierra Vista down at Fort Huachuca. I was a career employee for the Department of Defense in automation.
So you're familiar with government that way.
Oh, yes. And then I was a 2-term city councilman in Sierra Vista. In fact, while I was there, I even, for a year and a half, I had my own radio talk show on KTAN, Talk of the Town Radio.
Well, I think everybody out there listening would agree.
Yes.
You got the voice for it. You got the pipes.
Well, I also have the body for radio, too. So
I always say that. I tell my mom I had the voice. I gave me the face for radio. Anyway, so what type of show did you do?
It was a talk show. I had the drive to work slot on the talk radio station there, and it was very similar to the one you have. Topical events, the events of the day.
Was this a daily show?
Daily show.
Oh my goodness, that's a lot of work.
Yes.
Yeah, and you were working, and you were on the city council.
Right. I was on the city council, and at that time I'd retired out of government service, and I was working for the University of Arizona's campus there as their community relations director.
In the government service for the feds, what kind of work were you doing?
I was in automated telecommunications. I worked for essentially what was the Signal Corps. And we did all the base communications, software and hardware and things like that. Which
was a rapidly changing field, I would think, all the time.
It was incredible.
Because of the computers and...
Yeah, when I started out, the mainframe computers that were in base communication system, you could not get in the studio. They were so large. And by the time I retired in 1988, they were PC-sized, desktop-sized.
Sure. And now we're carrying around in our pocket.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Right, pretty much.
Yeah, it's amazing. I'm on with Harold Van Gilder. We're going to take a quick break. I'll be here before the top of the hour. And you stay with us, and we'll run these messages from our various and sundry sponsors.
Hi, Marie here for wannasing.com. Are you looking for professional DJ or karaoke services for your next holiday party or get-together? wannasing.com can provide the best in sound, lighting, and a professional MC to host your next event. Whether it be a company party, birthday party, wedding, or any occasion, wannasing.com is ready to provide the fun and make it a night to remember for years to come. Call 480-664-8801. That's 480-664-8801. Mention this radio ad and receive a special discount for your next fun event. wannasing.com.
More music 24 hours a day.
When you visit Hill Family Dentistry in Santan Valley, dentist Dr. Tim Hill provides each patient with personalized, gentle care that you deserve. Our entire team is dedicated to providing you and your family with services that will make you smile. With a full range of general, cosmetic, and specialty dentistry services that will keep you and your family smiling. Our commitment to our community is to provide outstanding oral health. Hill Family Dentistry is located on 36359 Gansell Road in Santan Valley, diagonally across from Banner Ironwood Hospital. Evening and weekend appointments available. We accept most insurances and have in-office policies available for non-insured. Contact us today at 480-588-8127. Hill Family Dentistry.
And we're back with Harold Van Gilder. I'm Douglas Wolf on Pinal Power Players. I don't know why I named it that. There's always too many P's in there. I should have made it simple, right?
Well, keep that because this may be the only place that I'm a power player. So I want you to keep that.
Everybody walks in the studio and interviews with me as a power player.
Okay.
Harold. You get the imprimatur just by walking in and being on the air with me. So thank you for that compliment. We're talking a little bit about your background. You're running for LD8 Senate seat, and first we got a little bit about your you're retired and going to theology school, and you worked for the federal government in the communications market or communications sector down at Fort Huachuca.
Fort Huachuca, yes.
And that's still they haven't closed that one, have they?
They have not closed that. In fact, I was involved as a community leader with all the base closure efforts. The first one starting in 1990.
Yeah.
Then they had 93 and 95, and so I was involved in all three of the base closing efforts, and we were able to keep Fort Huachuca alive.
Yeah, and just for our listeners out there, this is south of Tucson.
It's actually toward the Texas border. It's south and east of Tucson as you're going toward Wilcox.
Why is it there?
It was primarily put there because it was in a plateau completely surrounded by granite mountains, and it was the only place in the United States that could not be surveyed by Russian trawlers.
Oh, you mean ships?
Yeah, they put these surveillance ships out to get radio intelligence, and so they could bring things to Fort Huachuca and test them, and the testing could not be intercepted.
Now, what happened with the advent of satellites and pushing down? Were they able to
They could see, but they could not necessarily
do the intercepts.
And subsequently, they've placed huge buildings at Fort Huachuca that you can put an entire tank company in and create radio environment like for a battlefield and test it without anybody being able to.
It's amazing what $1 trillion budget can do for you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty soon you talk about real money.
Yeah, no kidding. We're only spending $700, give or take, billion this year.
Was that all?
That's it.
If I had that, I could put it on my MasterCard as far as it goes.
It's actually, it's still only 20% of the federal budget, though, which is astounding.
Right.
I tell people that in the 50s and 60s, we spent half of the federal budget on the military.
Right.
And that has shifted dramatically. But the real numbers, that is the real dollars being spent, has still increased pretty much. I mean,
Right.
I think and when Bush came into office, I think it was about $300 billion. So he fought these couple of wars and so forth and things. And then we had Homeland Security after 9/11. Right. So that went crazy. So back to you. Are you an Arizona native?
I am not. We moved here in 1976 from Oklahoma. I was with the Department of Defense at Tinker Air Force Base doing the same function. I was an automated telecommunications area, and we were doing a test and acceptance on a software package I was the project leader on. And so they came to watch this test and acceptance, and they offered me a promotion to come to Fort Huachuca. I had never heard of Fort Huachuca.
And neither had I till basically I got here.
Right. And so for whatever reason, my wife and I decided that sounds like it might be interesting. And so here we are.
Now, your wife, you said, has a master's degree also.
Right. She has actually, she was a retired educator. She has a master's in education and also what they call an ed specialist degree, which is a degree in education is about halfway between a master's and a PhD or an EDD.
Gotcha.
And
and she was in the public school system?
In the public school system in Sierra Vista and here, and she retired as the assistant principal of the Casa Grande Middle School.
Okay. So both of you have been in the public sector for most of your lives.
All of our lives.
All your lives, I should.
In fact,
you're still alive, right? So
yes,
I shouldn't say that.
Right.
For the bulk of your career, I
in
should
fact,
say.
2 years ago, we were bell ringing for my Kiwanis Club at the mall there, and in one of our Key Club, which is our high school youth organization, a young lady said, Mr. Van Gilder said, have you lived here all your life? And I said, well, not yet. Yeah.
It's a faux pas that happens often,
right.
Though. We do it. Which brings up an interesting, maybe, dichotomy, being that you're running as a conservative.
Yes.
And on the other hand, most of your bread was buttered from the largest of the taxpayers.
Yes.
How do you reconcile that in your mind?
Well, for one thing, my wife and I never had a trivial job in public service. My entire military and DOD experience was in highly classified things that were directly related to the defense of our country. My wife was a school teacher. I mean, it's an important thing to be a cop or a fireman or a teacher or, in that. And I never considered myself underpaid. although we were, when I retired in '88 and went to industry for a few years, I got a huge raise. And the thing that's different between the time I retired and now is, if I were retiring today at the same pay grade and step and went to the same job with United Technologies, I'd take a $30,000 a year cut in pay.
Interesting.
That's how much the
public sector's caught up and passed?
And passed. And,
is that including the EREs, all the bennies?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's 30% differential.
Yes.
Bless you.
And, for instance, I, as a retired employee, I have the same health care that Congress has.
Wow, that's sweet.
And the patrons that undergird that, they don't have that.
Uh-huh.
Our future in this country, if we don't come to some fix for it, is Detroit's reality right now. There's a huge bow wave coming at us that has the only thing it's made of is public sector pensions and benefits. That's what's sinking Detroit. That's what's sinking California. When I retired from the U of A, I was with them as a staffer in 2001. The state's retirement system, I believe, was funded at 140% of liability.
And today?
79.
So they're close, but no cigar.
Right. We're losing ground.
Yes, I got you.
So pretty soon.
Well, people are living longer, unfortunately.
Yes.
Or fortunately for them, but unfortunately for the system, I guess.
Yes.
Because they built their actuarial tables based on lifespans and all those other...
all that stuff.
Yeah, and, due to the, just incredible technology we have in the medical field.
Oh, yeah.
And the cost.
Yeah,
which is all third party, so nobody sees their bill. People are living longer, so the payouts are lasting a longer time for the retirees.
Yeah,
I would assume that's the problem. Or did they spike the retirements after you left, and like they are doing in Phoenix, and that's why all of a sudden you have the dramatic increase? Or is it a combination?
It's a combination of the stuff. The salary creep in federal service is unconscionably done. I mean, you cannot equate that to the private sector. My wife never considered she was underpaid as a school teacher or as an administrator. And those salaries have really spiked also. In fact, if you're, again, it's important to have teachers and cops and firemen.
Yeah, well, they're essential services.
They're essential services. They really are. But you know what? When the average public sector employee is making more than the people they serve, that is unsustainable.
Well, the teachers would argue. They would say that it's probably unsustainable. I'll agree with that. But they would argue that, only 30% of the average public has a college degree. In order to be a teacher, I have to have a college degree. Right. So, there's a bump there.
Right.
And anyway, they have a line of arguments. But I would argue also and I would agree with you that they have gotten out of hand. And especially at the federal level, I think there's over 1 million people making $100,000 a year. I mean, it's just and Obama just opened the floodgates.
Incredible
to pay. Just so folks know, here in Pinal County, our entry level is about $28,000 a year, with not including benefits, and the per capita income in the county is about 24. So we're not substantially over the per capita income in the county, and you have to have some qualifications, not a lot, to be an entry-level county employee. But that's just as by way of comparison.
Yeah, but see, that's the entry level, not the average.
The average is actually, where the money is in this county, and that's in law enforcement, because they have to pay policemen somewhat comparable to Mesa, and that's where it really gets kind of.
Right. But see, there's nothing beautiful about having a system that you can't sustain.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's great it's great while it's lasting when the party's still going. That's for sure.
And when it hits the wall, it is pretty ugly.
Speaking of hitting the wall, 2014 is right around the corner.
Yes.
And you're going to have to get votes to get in your Senate seat. And last session, the governor hijacked the process. And she keeps pretending she's going to run again. I think only her hairdresser knows for sure, but.
I think not.
I don't think she is either, but she keeps pretending because she doesn't want to become irrelevant. But last go-round, the legislature, like I said, was hijacked by a special session, and Medicaid expansion via Obamacare came into being in Arizona.
Yes.
Now, I'm assuming you're against that, what happened.
No.
All right, tell us why.
Okay. Paul Gosar, about 2 months ago at the Santan Republican Club,
He's our congressman, ladies and gentlemen.
A great conservative. Told the group, he said, folks, if Arizona had not taken that money, rural hospitals all across your state would be having to shut their doors or cut back on their services to people. This is, however, is only a stopgap measure. LD8 has 3 rural hospitals, and it's the most of any legislative district in the state. We have Casa Grande. We have the one that's right down the road here in Anthem, Florence Anthem, and the one at Globe. Okay. Our legislature had no good options. The option they took, the option that prevailed, is the best of all of the bad options for this reason. We at least get back part of the money that the federal government has confiscated from us over the years to help float this. There were people standing by to put this on the ballot as a citizens' initiative.
Mm-hmm.
It would have overwhelmingly passed if it got on the ballot. If you have a citizens' initiative, the legislature cannot modify that. It is what it is.
Because it becomes constitutional.
It becomes constitutional.
Okay.
The legislature, by passing it, at least has the option over the next 3 years, using some of our money that's coming back to us, to prepare for how you fix it when that runs out.
Which it's going to. We know that.
It is going to hit the wall. It is going to be ugly. If we had not taken it, the wall was right now. People were standing by to put it on the ballot, and it would have passed overwhelmingly. And the reason why we know that for sure is the effort to try to override or to veto the Governor's Act. The voters, the citizens of Arizona, by withholding their signatures, handed the issue its liver. It didn't even come close to qualifying to get on the ballot.
Well, wouldn't the argument be from the conservative side, and I'm not saying I'm arguing it, but they'd say, well, yeah, of course everybody wants to get free stuff.
Of course.
So why would they sign the petition? It doesn't make any sense. We're going to get free money.
No, that's absolutely true.
That's true too.
That's true too. You got.
So it's a beautiful seduction of the voter is having Obamacare and say, well, here's the free money in order to do it. Is that really what happened?
See, people have not seen what's going to happen to them under Obamacare. I have a friend in Casa Grande that has a small business. He has a shop over there. I take my car there for tires and to get repaired and whatever. He and his wife have already been told that their personal insurance coverage is going to go up next year $30,000.
30,000.
30,000.
Just for 2 people?
For 2 people. They're approaching senior citizen age. They got some problems. One's diabetic and got all that. So they're having to take out of their business rainy day fund to fund their health care next year. Now, when this happens to Johnny Jones and Susie Smith on a very wide scale, and it will, starting January the 1st, then the people that are directly impacted, and that's going to be all of us. Okay, all of us. Then the dynamics of the public arena are going to change dramatically in favor of what we've been saying for years as conservatives. There is no free lunch. If you want to have things that, we've essentially had universal health care forever. When I was in the 50s, I had my tonsils out. The doctor in the hospital let my dad pay, I think it was $10 a month, to pay for the $120 tab to take out my tonsils. Okay. Americans have never let people die on the street.
No, never has happened.
Okay, never has happened. And so in that sense, if you were the beneficiary of being here in this country, you didn't, you got took care of by somebody if you couldn't take care of yourself. And so those days will have to be returned, and we'll have to have something that restarts everything. And I think that probably the eventual resurgence of a conservative movement is going to be us being ready to pick up the pieces and make it right at the end of the day. And here's where the voter has to be really, really wise. 3 years from now, you need to have as many people from the schoolhouse to the White House and from the outhouse to the State House that have an R after their name. There's a lot of complaints about our congressman, didn't do this or that on this deal the other night. But I'll tell you right now, if everybody could have put their favorite conservative, whoever they think that is, take all of Congress back and put their favorite conservative in, guess what the results of the vote would be?
On what? On Obamacare or on
the what happened the other?
There were two issues. There was the continuing resolution,
right,
and there was the debt expansion.
Yes.
So on both, or
on both? What do you think? If you could have got rid of all of Congress and put in every conservative that anybody likes?
Well, I think this is just my opinion. I think that they would have delayed the rollout of Obamacare for the individual mandate at least a year. That's number one. They would have put the Congress under the same plan as everyone else. Number two, and they would have voted a continuing resolution with those things. And number three, they would raise the debt limit.
If you have 1/3 of the things that matter, we have the House, they have the Senate, they have the White House.
Right, we only have one.
We only have one.
Yeah.
Nothing gets done except what the other side wants.
Sure, they had the trump card, I understand, but I thought you were saying if we had control of Congress and the White House, but you weren't.
No, I was talking about the scenario is, as it sits right now, it's the same thing, except we get rid of everybody that wasn't conservative.
In the House side?
In the House side.
Oh, no, it would have been the same.
It'd been the same.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, it'd been the same.
Because we didn't control anything.
We didn't control anything.
Yeah.
So, folks, it's going to hit the wall. I think my favorite line out of the movie Titanic was when after they hit the iceberg and the captain asked the ship designer, "Are you sure we're going to sink?" And the guy said, "It's a mathematical certainty." Okay? Folks, it's a mathematical certainty.
Well, can't the government just borrow more money, Harold, and fix it?
Okay. Here's what happens. I was in France, stationed in France as an enlisted soldier in '62. France owed everybody and their dog money, and the economy was in a train wreck in '62. And they elected Charles de Gaulle. They brought him out of retirement, made him the president of France. Charles de Gaulle did the following. He defaulted on every debt. Just told the whole world,
we're not paying.
We're not paying. We don't owe you nothing. The books on our side are zero. You do what you want to do with your books. On our books, we don't owe you anything.
Okay.
The exchange rate was 650 francs to $1.
And he changed that, I'll bet.
Moved the decimal point back, too. All of a sudden, it was 6 francs 50 centimes to the dollar instead of 650 francs.
Wow.
And in a year, the French economy was gurgling. I saw it go from train wreck to gurgling.
Sure.
In the 2 years that I was
Well,
there.
yeah. I mean, I'd be a wealthy man too if I didn't have a mortgage on my house.
That's right. And so we are in danger of being in that same position. But here's the thing that the voter must do. The voter must make sure that when that crash hits, that the people that pick up the pieces better have an R after their name instead of a D.
And the reason is?
If you thought that getting here was bad under D's, you ought to see what the Reconstitution is going to look like if it's under the D's.
But in the case of France, I wouldn't have called de Gaulle a Reagan or Tea Party conservative, would I?
No, none of them are over there. But
they crazed. Now I'm just following your logic here. They had a recovery based on him wiping out the debt, which makes it easy. But they still were socialists.
Yes.
That ran the country post facto.
Right, and then they're back almost in that same situation now in France again.
Yeah, they've recycled it.
They've recycled it again, but that was a restart for them. That was a reset button.
So if the United States does a reset button, which you're saying we might tell the rest of the world the $17 trillion we owe you, forget it?
I'm not saying that, but whatever the reset button is, whatever the Reconstitution is going to be, I'm suggesting that it'd be better if it's done by Republicans instead of Democrats. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. All the way from the federal all the way down to the state of Arizona.
From the schoolhouse to the White House and the outhouse to the State House. So we better have ours.
Now, my argument, we were talking a little bit off the air, not really my argument, my observation is that a country that can print its own money and is the reserve currency has a lot of advantages over somebody like France after World War II, which was, basically on its back bleeding bad when the war was over. So we could carry this merry-go-round on for quite a long time. And you're saying you think it's closer to...
It's closer. I mean, I would be surprised if the dollar is the reserve currency much longer.
Well, what's much longer? Give us a time frame, just for fun.
A year.
A year? Okay. The renminbi is going to be the. Are they going to have a market basket?
A market basket, probably, but and even if it's not a year, if it's a year and a half, so what? I missed it.
Yeah.
In galactic terms, that's close enough.
Okay. All right. Well, interesting prognostication. Okay, so let's assume everything goes the way you plan, and you are elected to the state senate. That's a 2-year term.
Right.
And what happens in your mind, assuming we're not in this financial terrain wreck, what kind of things do you think you'll be able to push through in Arizona, or you'd like to see changed that would be part of your platform?
Okay. I think there's 3 things that Arizona could do if you could wave your magic wand and have it done. Would turn the state around in ways that you could not believe.
Okay.
One is to essentially eliminate or completely eliminate the income tax.
State income tax.
State income tax.
Okay.
Eliminate that. Every state that doesn't have an income tax, their economy is bubbling right now. Texas, Tennessee,
North Dakota.
Yeah, you name it.
Florida.
Yep.
Washington State.
Yep.
Tennessee, I think.
I
think there's 6 or 7. I'm not sure.
6 or 7.
Yeah, I don't know how Tennessee's doing. Washington State is coming back pretty strongly,
right.
I know. Okay, but all right, you got to replace it with something, Harold.
You replace it with...
the revenue.
The revenue. Yeah, you could replace it by higher taxes of some kind, or guess what? You might even shoot to having smaller, more efficient, more streamlined government.
Well, I would argue that that'd be very difficult to do because of what they had to do in 2008, which is go from $11 billion to $8 billion. I mean, that's a pretty good. That's almost a third. The budget was 20% was cut out,
right.
And the great majority of that budget is aid to education. I mean, that's where the most of the money goes,
right.
at the state level. So, do you have a plan either to replace or reduce? Do you have something that you'd say these are the things I would get rid of, or these are here's where I raise the taxes in lieu of?
I think one thing, if you had no income tax and we had the economy of Texas, okay, Texas education is not suffering because there's no income tax because of the strength.
Well, the property taxes are pretty high in Texas.
Well, yeah, maybe sales tax too.
Yeah,
but
I mean, I have friends who live there, and it's not like Pinal County, even though we think they're high.
Yeah,
yeah.
But so you do what it takes to increase economic activity. Economic activity, like Reagan said, floats all boats.
Yeah,
floats them all.
Yeah,
it doesn't float half of them; it floats all of them.
Right.
And the second thing is that Arizona has almost obnoxious regulations as it impacts business. If you got to have regulations. I'm not saying you don't have any, but we could be a whole lot more regulation friendly to somebody that wants to start a company.
Well, for instance, where are we really knocking people out where they say I don't want to move to Arizona? Well, the income tax would help. That's
income
for sure.
tax would help. That's another one. Corporate taxes are too high. The permitting process is too onerous. For instance, when I was on the city council, I asked for an opinion from the city council one time about development fees. We charge a developer to build your house.
Sure.
We charge them
an impact fee,
and we charge them a fee to review their plans.
Right, plan review, plan check. Yeah,
right, and it's done under the guise of due diligence.
Yes.
So I asked the city attorney, if the city accepts the professional engineering stamp that's on the blueprint, is that due diligence? And he said, yes.
Surprisingly, okay.
Yes,
yeah.
Because the engineer that puts his stamp on there, he is certified. I mean, this guy's been washed with all the right wash rags, to get that ticket.
Sure.
And so if we have something that says we have done our due diligence by requiring a professional stamp on this blueprint, why would we add $1,000 to that builder's cost for your house?
Because we can.
That's right. You know what? That's the wrong answer for government.
I understand. All right, we're going to take another break, and we'll be back with my guest, Harold Van Gilder, on the Pinal Power Players Show.
Are you ready to start taking control of your future and maximize your earning potential? Central Arizona College has smaller class sizes and personalized attention to help you compete in today's tough job market. CAC now serves Santan Valley and Queen Creek. The CAC Santan Center is located in the shops at Copper Basin on Hunt Highway, behind Barrow's Pizza. Stop in and see how taking classes at CAC costs a fraction of a state university, and your credits can transfer. So, if you want to earn real money, you need to learn real skills at Central Arizona College. Enroll in classes today by calling 480-677-7825 or visit www.centralaz.edu or call 480-677-7825 or visit www.centralaz.edu. Central Arizona College, your college, your way.
Are you experiencing computer problems? Is your computer running slow, bogged down with viruses and spyware? You need a reliable and knowledgeable, trustworthy computer service company. Contact Computers, Networks, and More, located in Santan Valley. Get your computer or laptop running in top condition by a certified technician with 20-plus years experience and beta tester from Microsoft. Computers, Networks, and More provides repairs and solutions to any computer-related issue, whether it's software, installation, troubleshooting, updates, or tune-ups. You can trust Computers, Networks, and More. Contact Jeff Monday through Saturday, 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. to schedule an appointment. We can have you up and running quickly, usually within 48 hours. Located in Santan Valley. Computers, Networks, and More. We're here for you. Contact Jeff at 480-729-8899. That's 480-729-8899.
And we're back. It's about 1:20 in the afternoon, give or take, which clock we're using in this studio. We have several that all tell different times, but hey, Einstein said time. That's right, and time. He said time was relative, so we're relatively speaking about 1:20 here on a beautiful day here in Santan Valley. Like cool mornings, warm afternoons, about 87 degrees. So if you're a golfer, this is a good day to get out there, and especially you Canadians. Welcome back. I forgot to welcome back all the Canadians. My neighborhood is imbued with the Canadian mystique there because they all show up about the first week in October in Johnson Ranch because we live on the golf course. And my golly, all these maple leaf flags start showing up on the golf course. So
yeah, we have a couple of members of my Kiwanis Club that are from Canada, and so we always sing a patriotic song to open our meetings, and every now and then we'll let them sing "Oh Canada."
It's a great, actually, this is my personal plea. I think it's the best national anthem that there is in the world. Here I'm an American, I'm bigoted. Ours is okay, but it's hard to sing for one thing.
Yes.
And "Oh Canada," it's not
melodic.
It's melodic, and it's got a lot more going for it. But that's just a personal opinion. Obviously, they're not going to change it just because I don't like it. So, I'm on with Harold Van Gilder, who's a candidate for state senate in LD8. Very quickly coming up on 2014. The last issue you want to talk about, and I think we have a caller who may be joining us from Casa Grande, Dick Powell. And Dick, if you're out there listening, 480-745-1033, and I'll put you on, and you can join the Harold and I in the conversation. 480-745-1033. We're talking about a water issue. Which is really key, and I think you should frame it for everybody and where we are today and what basically I think it was a kick the can down the road thing again here in Arga. So fire away with farming and water here in Pinal County.
Okay, from the time of the founding of the state, there's been a saying in Arizona that whiskey is for drinking and water is for fighting.
Yep.
And so water rights were if you didn't have
paramount.
water, if you didn't have water, you didn't have anything.
It is kind of a dry state. Yes.
Kind of a dry state. Not by liquor wise, but by water.
Yeah, we're not Utah yet.
Not yet. But for instance, prior to 1980, and I know this because we had an acreage one time where we had to drill a well. Prior to 1980, if you owned land, you were allowed, you had an absolute water right to what they called the percolating groundwater. And that was the amount of water that fell on your land the previous year. And back in those days, even in Cochise County, which really had more than Tucson area or Phoenix area, but we'd still get about 12 inches or 13 inches a year. And if you compute what 5 acre feet of water, I had 5 acres, that's a lot of water. Mm-hmm. The Van Gilder family would never use what it was allowed under its water rights prior to 1980. In 1980, they had the 1980 Water Rights Act, and that's the act that essentially set up the Arizona Department of Water Resources, which is the overarching state agency for water stuff. And out of that legislation, as I'm understanding it, and Dick and others have given me more stuff than I can read, it's a huge issue. The state essentially said, we have the control of the water because it's a public resource. Okay. And so they set up active management areas in different places in the state, and Pinal County essentially is one of the active management areas. And it had a caveat that the others didn't have, in that it would specifically address that agricultural interests would be protected under the AD Act as long as agriculture could be sustained in Pinal County. Okay. Well, out of the ADWR, they established what they call the GUAGs, the Groundwater Users Associations, underneath ADWR to give them recommendations. And essentially what they've come up with is a scheme to reduce the water rights of farmers and landholders on a percentage basis. You're going to lose X percent of your water rights every year until about 2050, you have no water rights.
I'm a little confused, though, because they passed this in 1980?
1980.
Why is it just now hitting the fan?
Because that was the lag time, as I understand it, in the legislation. I hope Dick calls in here pretty soon, because he's much more knowledgeable than I am.
Well, if not, we'll get him on a different show and have him.
Okay. And so the issue as it relates to farmers and developers is this. The 80 Water Rights Act also set in concrete the amount of agricultural land that's in the state.
So we're not growing any more ag land.
No, if you won the Megabits lottery and you wanted to go out and buy you 1,000 acres out here in the desert and grow alfalfa, okay, no can do. You cannot.
The sheriff would come and arrest me.
Somebody would come and get you.
Okay.
So that's one of the things that, as a kind of a libertarian conservative, if I got rights to stuff,
if I own the land,
and I own the land, if I want to grow peanuts, or if I was up in Colorado, grow hemp again,
sure,
whatever you want to grow,
sure,
okay,
should be allowed to do it.
Yeah, and so here's the state is they're coming and taking it's called a diminishment. They're taking the credits away until you have no
water rights. Okay, so basically the land is worthless for farming.
Yes, and in fact, if you take water rights away,
well, I just so I understand it correctly, that's just for pumped water from a well. If I'm connected to CAP, does that go away too, or how?
No, you can buy a CAP water.
I could still do that.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, but probably would make it cost prohibitive.
Oh, it's out of sight.
I see. Okay,
it could go out of sight.
Just so it's clear to everybody in our audience, because everybody sees the canals everywhere, and they're probably thinking, well, wait a sec, when are they going to stop them from tapping into the canal? So it's what they could pump out of the ground is basically going away. Right. Okay.
And so in recent years, developers have bought farmland as farmers have got out of the business. Farmers were successful. The kids are now doctors, lawyers, teachers, and they don't want to run the farm. And so when mom and dad get old, they sell the farm. Okay. And so when you buy the land, you buy the water rights, and now you're a developer and you want to build houses on it. And guess what you got to show?
Got to have water.
You got to have water, 100-year supply, but the state's taking it away. But guess what? They'll sell you water rights.
Me as a developer.
The developer.
Okay.
If you can afford to buy them.
Does that come out of the CAP or out of the ground?
Yeah.
Well, both.
Both.
Okay.
Yeah, you can buy CAP water or you can buy water credits.
But the water credits are should be less expensive than the canal, or they're not?
Not.
Oh.
Now, as I understand it. Now,
Okay.
once again, I'm trying to make myself educated on this. But here is the real thorny issue in that the state is taking a value from your property and not compensating you for it.
That would seem to be illegal under the Fifth Amendment.
I guess,
Takings clause.
Yeah, this takings clause.
And has no one challenged it in court under those?
Not yet, but I think we're getting there. In fact, the Supreme Court, in a ruling just recently,
U.S. or Arizona?
U.S.
Okay.
U.S. Supreme Court has ruled that if a government entity creates a law, an ordinance, a code, or anything that reduces your property, that under the law it's considered a confiscatory taking. Okay?
Yes.
And so governments can take your land. It's called eminent domain, but they have to pay you for it.
Right.
And they have to pay you at market value. And in some jurisdictions, they even throw a little blue sky in there. They might buy it at 110% of market value, but you get paid for that. And so the beef right now with the ag folks and with the developers is you are taking a value out of my land, which, by the way, the farmer goes to buy seed, goes to the bank, say, I need $100,000 for.
It's part of their asset base.
That's their asset base. Yeah. And if it's being reduced, their loan capacity is also going down.
So basically it puts them out of business. So I think we can agree on that.
Yeah, it puts them out of business.
So what's Harold Van Gelder going to do at the state Senate to overturn this?
Okay. Of course, you got to piecemeal this, and you got to unravel the ability of appointed officials at state agencies and below state agencies from being able to do what should be left to the elected officials.
I understand, but the law was put in place by elected officials.
That's fact.
So then,
with no oversight.
Well, all right, but I mean, if they're, are you saying they're breaking the law?
I'm saying that they're not breaking the law because there was no law there for them to break in what they passed.
No, I understand, but I mean, are these administrative types breaking the law and not following the spirit of the law, or what are they doing?
I think they're breaking the law in that they are establishing a taking with no compensation. I think that's going to be the court issue.
So you don't think that was voted on by the original legislators when they passed this? They didn't see it as a taking?
They didn't see it as a taking at that time.
Okay.
Okay, we're what now?
40 years.
40 years away from a law that was essentially established to manage collectively for the benefit of us all water.
I got that.
Okay.
All right. So they passed this law. Yep. It's been in existence for a long time, based on what you just said, and all of a sudden now the time has passed and the law is kicked into gear, and the bureaucrats are doing what they're supposed to do.
Yeah. Well, you would think, but for instance, these groundwater user groups, the GUAGs, in Pinal County, for instance, they do things like have their meetings at 7 o'clock in the morning with, putting a notice in some paper that nobody reads.
Okay, so you're saying they weren't following
the spirit of the law,
in the sense that because they were worried people would show up and protest,
right?
But why would they need hearings if the law is set that this is what it's going to happen regardless?
They have to make the recommendation to the Arizona Department of Water Resources that says, diminish this credit, this amount this year.
Okay, so it's not on an automatic time schedule. It's actually run by the bureaucracy.
Yes.
Which is kind of interesting that the legislature would give them that power.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that has to be and by the way, it's Frank Pratt and T.J. Shope are revisiting this. They have been able to establish
they had a committee or something.
A review committee. And one of the things that they've made sure of is that people that have skin in the game are on this committee. Mm-hmm. The GUAG, for instance, in Pinal County, there's not a single ag person on that.
That doesn't make any sense.
Not a single developer person's on that.
Who is on it then?
Well, David Snyder chairs it.
Oh, our former
supervisor and former librarian over in Casa Grande.
So shouldn't he be, because he lives in Casa Grande, he should be well aware of these issues?
Well, you would think. We're kind of stunned over there. At least I am. I'm kind of stunned that...
Because you know him, I would imagine.
Yes, I've known David for 20 years.
Yeah. And he's just ignoring the cries of the farmers?
Well, I'm not sure. I haven't had a conversation with David to see what, why this path is being walked down. But I am astounded that it's being walked down. I would have figured David, my first blush was that he would be a pro-ag type person, a pro-property rights type person. That would be my first blush.
I don't know if he ever had that reputation as a board of supervisors, so I can't speak to it because he predates me. But okay, so this committee's now there's the board, and then there's this committee that's being formed. Your hope is that Harold Van Gilder can do what as a state senator? That
I can join my Republican teammates when we win again in LD8. That I can join them in fixing this takings issue. That the state cannot, through any device or through any bureaucracy, take a value from people's property without proper compensation and proper procedure.
So in the perfect world, let's say that does happen. Will the state be just writing a check to these farmers? Because are they going to say we're no longer going to diminish your rights, and that's that?
Well, my hope is that they would no longer diminish the right.
Okay.
But again, we're having a change of philosophy on takings in the country. At one time, a government structure could not take your property except for municipal purposes.
Yes.
Okay.
Roads and so forth.
Whatever, schools, city halls. But there have been some instances across the country where communities have taken property, sold it to a developer for a mall.
Right. Well, the Kello versus New London, Connecticut, and that went, a conservative court upheld it.
Yeah. And so in the history of the Republic, that hadn't been done until our lifetime. We saw...
About 2003 or 2004.
Right. We saw brand new ground being plowed, and... in fact, I think one of the Supreme Court justices owned some property that eventually was taken by
I think Justice Souter, I think.
I think so.
Well, okay, so that's what you hope to do, and maybe do you think that you can get something like that through legislatively, or join a lawsuit in order to stop this process?
Either way or both.
Okay.
Whatever it takes to stop this thing from proceeding.
Yeah, because it's going to kill the value of the land.
Yes.
No developer will buy it.
No.
It'll just go fallow, and
and
then the property taxpayers of Pinal County will expect it to pick up the lag, because that's more land that won't be producing, even though ag doesn't pay a lot of property taxes, it pays some. And that'll put the burden back on more on the homeowners.
Well, I know, for instance, right now a lot of people may not be aware of this, but I think there's like 100,000 cows in Pinal County. We have 2 or 3 plants over in the Casa Grande area, 2 under construction, I think 1 existing, that their entire product will be Pinal County cows.
Yeah.
That's going to be hundreds of jobs for Pinal County.
Yep.
Lots of property tax for Pinal County, construction money for Pinal County.
Yeah, there's a lot of spin-off and ripple effect.
Yes, and so if this diminishment issue wipes out ag, it wipes out jobs. It wipes out an industry. Ag is an industry in Pinal County. And some people might say, well, those farmers getting rich. Well, God bless any capitalist. I hope you get rich. If you're a capitalist, I hope you get filthy.
Well, they're getting rich doing that. They're not farming, that's for sure. Well, we come to the end of our time, Harold. I'm sorry, regretfully. And let's give everybody a chance if they want to communicate with you or get in contact, support your campaign. How can they do it?
Okay, I'm on Facebook at Harold Van Gilder for Senate on Facebook, at Harold Van Gilder or # Harold Van Gilder on Twitter. I'm trying to learn how to Twitter, whatever in the world that is. We'll have a website up here in probably a couple of weeks. And in fact, that website, I can give you the address of that right now. It will be...
you got to get into the mic.
It will be www.haroldvangilder. Nope, that's my personal email address. Harold Van Gilder at cox.net.
That's your email.
That's my email.
Okay.
My cell number is 520-431-2263.
Let's repeat that. 520-431-2263. Okay. So anybody wants to get a hold of Harold and talk about whatever, he'll be glad to talk to you about that. And That's it for this week's edition of Pinal Power Players. Thank you, Harold, for being my guest.
Right, thank you.
And now let's see if I can run this crazy computer and get my outro to work here. We'll give that a shot here. And, hey, God bless America. God bless Pinal County. And thank you all for joining me today.
Bocce Italian Bistro of Arizona is the best-kept secret this side of Italy, located in southeast Mesa between Hawes and Ellsworth Road on Germain. For authentic family-cooked Italian cuisine, come and savor delicious dishes made from the freshest ingredients. We promise to deliver a true Italian family